Let's start from the Facebook message. Holiday, you find yourself in the worst possible place personally. This marriage with this man, I think it's over. Who do I go to? Not my mom, not a sister or a best friend. I'm going to send a Facebook message to his first wife.
Well, it seems to just make sense.
And she's going to answer. Even better, huh?
How did you know who the ex-wife was, and how did you just know, and how to find her on Facebook?
A few years before I reached out to her, my husband at the time, who is now my ex-husband, his mother had passed away, and so I had posted something on Facebook, and Valerie was somehow connected. We had mutual friends through Junior League on Facebook, and so we had connected at that point a few years earlier. So I knew who she was, and we had met very briefly through Junior League friends that we had in common. And so we had like a very fake Facebook friendship, just kind of quote-unquote friends, but we weren't really friends. And so that's how I knew who she was and how to reach out to her.
So frenemies.
Kind of. And frenemies. It was more or less just we had friends in common, and so I knew who she was, and I knew she was in Atlanta. And, my ex-husband, he even said to me on our first date, "You really remind me of my ex-wife." And I was like, oh, okay.
The resemblance is a little uncanny between you two.
Right?
Yeah, to say the least.
What did that Facebook message say, Holiday?
I said, "Hey, girl, I feel like I'm caught between Jerry Springer and A Nightmare on Elm Street. If anyone could possibly understand what I'm going through, it would be you. Can we meet for a drink or dinner or something, or lunch or both or something like that?" And then within 30 seconds, she messaged me back and was like, "What's going on?" Because she had checked his Facebook status and he had changed it from married to single within like 24 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the first meeting then? What did you guys decide to do to chat?
So I said, Holiday, I said, call me. So she called me the next morning after she drank her wine in the bath, and then said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I hate to bother you, but it's my first weekend without my kids. I'm really freaking out about this." And I said, "Girl, she said, "I know you have this perfect life and you're happily married." And I said, again, Facebook, right? You think it's a perfect life. And I said, "Actually, I'm 3 months into a divorce.
Oh,
I'm
gosh.
3 months ahead of you. So what you don't know, and I just had my first weekend without my son a couple weeks ago. I know exactly what you're going through. Why don't you just, pack a pillow, come on over, spend the night, and we'll just talk this through." So that was, I think, on a Thursday, and she came over on a Friday night, the next night.
So she said, "Bring a notebook.
Bring
a notebook and a pen. I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about divorce because I've been there, I've done that. I got it."
Our ex-husband, he was my college sweetheart. So we got married shortly out of college. I think we were married a minute or two, and so there was no love lost. It had been years ago. He and I ended on okay terms, so, if anything, it was more like I have got to help this girl, and maybe her marriage isn't really even over,
So now you're thinking that you may counsel this woman who's married to your ex-husband to help their marriage work out.
Yep, that's exactly what I was thinking.
A good friend is a shrink without the bill, right? So Valerie, what did you say yesterday? I swear I'm like the most unpaid therapist in the world.
Yeah. I said, Holiday, let's write out the pros and cons here. Let's write them out with a clear heart and a clear mind. Is this just you not having butterflies anymore, or is this seriously some deal breakers going on? So she wrote it all out. She was still wearing her wedding ring. And I said, "So you're still wearing your ring? Are you still, where are we at?" And she wrote out the pros and cons, and obviously we know which list won out, right?
When you move out with 2 small children, you don't just do it on a whim. So I had obviously weighed it all out, and I I am definitely, I'm a Christian. I prayed about it. My family had, really worked with me through it. But I knew what I needed to do, and I know I made the right decision. But that doesn't mean it's easy.
How did all of this, you guys connecting, lead to writing a book?
Well, 6 months later. So Holiday, when I first took her under my wing, I kind of showed her my binders. She was making binders as well. And I said to her, girl, when I first went through this, I Googled divorce planners. And on Amazon, there were over 16,000 results for wedding planners and only 7 results for divorce planners. So we kind of wrote the book we wish we would have had going through divorce. So we went on this trip, Memorial Day trip, with our kids. She and I did. We drove to Florida. Our ex-husband actually gave us his gas credit card because he knew we were on a budget. So we're on this trip, and we're like, we just can't make this story up, and there needs to be a book out there. And if we went through all this pain, we need to, pay it forward and help other men and women.
Is there a chapter in the book that can help or guide women on how to find the ex-wife, the first ex-wife? So, for example, my divorce is going to be final on April 4th, and all I kept saying over the last 8 or 9 months to this process was, I wish I knew how to find his first wife, because I have so many questions and so many things that I need answered so I can understand why this is all happening. And I feel like I'll find comfort knowing that he did the exact same thing to her that he did to me. These are not Facebook people. Like, my ex was not on Facebook, so I can't go and search past photos and see old tags of her and other photos. I need a private investigator. I just need to figure out how to find his first ex-wife.
Did he not ever talk about her? I would say call his best friend or maybe his mom or something.
None of those people talked to me, nor did they really ever communicate with me through the entire time I was with this person. So all I know about her is that her name was Jess, and that they went to college together, and that they were married for 3 years, just like we were married for 3 years. They divorced. She moved on quickly. We divorced. I moved on quickly. I wish I knew how to find her. I wish I knew more. A last name, anything.
See, this needs to be a separate show for you guys. Yeah. Pull up his marriage records and where he used to live, and it'll have her name attached to it, too.
Good.
I'm just not getting to that level of crazy. That's what my problem is. I got to really start thinking more about this.
Yeah, I would suggest to you to let it go, because patterns are patterns, and I'm not saying that my divorce was simply only because of him. I think it does take two to lay the tracks for sure, and so I had my fair share of things that I would go back and would have done differently as well. So I would say a pattern is a pattern, and if don't allow it to eat you up, and just find peace in knowing that chances are the same things happened with her and that things are consistent, and so you look for those red flags moving forward and, try and find inner peace with it, because there's nothing, finding her may or may not make you feel any better.
Is it kind of sad that I hope that he did do the same thing to her that he did to me? Because it's pretty ugly. I take comfort in that, knowing that somebody that I love that much could break the law in order to hurt my feelings and get back at me and convince others to do the same. So I would almost kind of take comfort in knowing that the same thing happened in his first marriage, because then I can be like, oh, well, this is just who he is, and it's not just me.
I can attest to that. That happened with my last marriage, and then I found out what really happened in the first marriage, and not through her. I did not reach out to her just because, again, I was like, you know what, I have this sneaking suspicion, and then someone confirmed it to me, and there was that kind of feeling like, oh, it really was him and not me.
Okay.
So I understand where you're at, but I will say this, with Holiday and I, and people always go, God, I can't believe you guys never do this. We hardly talk about our ex.
Yeah.
In fact, the first time we met, we hardly talked about him. And in a weird sort of way, it wasn't about him. It was just helping another woman or being there as a friend. So, it really wasn't about bashing him or like, oh, my God, did he do that to you too? And, it was nothing about that. It was more like, oh, my gosh, I'm going to help you. I'm a mom too. Let's get you to a better place. Let's get you to a better life.
So from the Facebook message to today, how many years now have gone by? How long have you two been in each other's lives in this way?
Over 5 years. years, about 5.5.
At 5.5. Okay. So in those 5.5 years, while the conversations weren't really about him, they have to be discovering just how many similarities. Because on spec, if you see a picture of Holiday Miller and Valerie Shepard, you can see right off the bat that he obviously is partial to blondes. They smile with their whole face, and they have incredibly attractive curves.
Oh, well, thank you.
Did you find it as kind of an insult that your husband like the same type, or is it actually very flattering?
I think I'm going with flatter.
Yeah. No, I knew Valerie was a tall blonde. I mean, he told me straight out of the gates. And we also were in the same sorority, so I knew if she was a Kappa girl, she had to be cute.
We both pledged the same sorority at the same school. We both went to Florida State first and then transferred. I transferred to Georgia. Holiday transferred to Florida. So we pledged the same sorority at the same school. Didn't even know it. We were both education majors. We had everything the same.
Jeez.
You know what's next for you guys is a reality series on Lifetime where you're helping other women get divorced and go through their divorce. And then you're also going to get your own Lifetime movie, because I feel like everything that I'm hearing right now is like the drama that I love to have in my life every Saturday at noon.
While you're eating a bag of Twizzlers.
That's the kind of stuff I want to see on TV because it's relatable to me and I can learn something from it.
And, our mission has always been just to help other women get through it. And not even just women. I think we've had men reach out to us as well who are going through similar situations. And the main point is that the divorce books out on the market right now are so boring and legal and serious that the Ex-Wife's Guide to Divorce was just more of a lighthearted girlfriend's guide. And so it's more of a personal type of take on what you're going through. And exactly right what you said, we want to connect with you because we know what you're going through because we've been there. Most people don't have a girlfriend or, a guy friend to help you through it during the process.
So when you pick up this book, first, obviously, it starts with meeting the ex-wives, and then first steps, filling binders and searching online and making phone calls. And then the journey, the stages of divorce, getting yourself organized. Actually said, get organized, girl. Let's talk money, honey. Choose your crew. I suppose that has a lot to do with the division of friends, too, which comes when a couple splits up, yes?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And making sure you have the right friends to support you. Some friends have to take a little vacation away from you for a little while.
When you get divorced, everybody wants to tell you what to do. I don't want to take advice from someone I wouldn't trade places with. So if you haven't been there and, everybody wants to give you their opinion. So if you take too many people's opinions, it's going to sink your boat and you'll just lose your mind. So you got to really discern who do you want to listen to and who do you want to shut out, because it's important.
You got a chapter of the book called Oh, Captain, My Captain, and this is all about finding the right attorney.
Yeah.
I have a friend who actually spent over $1,000 paying a retainer to several attorneys just so his wife couldn't hire them.
Oh, my gosh.
I've heard of that.
Calculated.
But Steve, you were the one who told me that there's a reason why divorces are expensive.
Because they're worth it.
Yeah.
And then the section on Kids Club. And, this is a sensitive subject for anybody with kids that goes through a divorce, including myself. How to help your kids sort of thrive and navigate their own way through this. But also reading that your feelings on custody is at a 50-50 situation isn't preferred, in your opinion.
No, it's not impossible. Nothing is impossible, but it's really honestly not fair to the kids because they never get settled. And so when they're constantly going back and forth, I see this with my stepchildren now. They're in 8th grade. And my 8th grade stepdaughter is constantly packing all of her makeup and all of her shoes and all of her stuff every other week. And it's, when you go on vacation, after being on vacation for a week, by day 5 or 6, you're finally settled. And then you got to pack up and leave. And so imagine if that was your life every day. It's just hard. It's hard for the kids. It's really hard for the kids.
Clearly in most divorces, one spouse usually wanted out long before the other person is aware. So while you have already processed, once you finally say, I'm leaving, I want a divorce, that person is now starting the process that you've already soared your way through. So they're probably still at the revenge stage when you're in the moving on stage. And using the cell phone as a weapon and the constant texting and slinging daggers. Do you do anything to help people deal with that part of the process?
Well, we kind of talk about it at the stages of divorce, and stages of grief. And we kind of go over, listen, you're going to hit all these. And the big message, I would say, streamed throughout the entire book. Our message is be better, not bitter. And when you see a text like that, they're just teeing you up. You know it. They want you to respond. They want something. Something is going on with them that they feel like, okay, let me go to the person that I know I can get this frustration out on. So our message is be stronger. Don't take the shot. Just understand the purpose. And Steve, I think I had said that to you. There's a saying in the South: the devil only comes at you one way. So figure out the one way the devil's going to come at you, and then make sure to sidestep it. Right?
I'm so thankful for no contact orders right now. Because me and my ex, we have a no contact order, and he is not allowed to contact me. So I love I love that. Don't be bitter, be better. I could just use that in life in general every single day.
Yeah. One other piece of advice on that: whenever I would get one of those texts, I would always say, "Okay, table it. Like, put it in a mental file. Just read it, let it go for a day, and then I would always text back the next day and say." I'm so sorry. I'm just seeing this now. And tell me what you need. It was
where are the three of you at now, Holiday, Valerie, and what's the ex-husband's first name?
His name is Corey.
What kind of relationship do the three of you have now?
Well, Valerie doesn't have a relationship with him because she was only married to him for like 5 minutes out of college. And so, yeah, he's the father of my children, and we actually joke about how awesome we are and how awesome we are at co-parenting, because he really is a fantastic dad. And my mom has even said, Holiday, he should thank you, because he would have never become the dad that he is if you had stayed, just because he was so dependent on me. And so because I left, he really had to step up his daddy game. And he's been a great dad. He's been a great co-parent. Now, that's not to say the first year out of the gates wasn't really super fun, but I have to give him props for getting over it and moving on and realizing this isn't about him. This isn't about his ego. This is about our kids and the fact that we share children together. And he has taken the be better, not bitter road as well. And I'm really thankful for that. He has been very supportive of the ex-wife got to divorce. I sat him down and told him, hey, yes, Valerie and I are friends. Oh, and by the way, we're writing a book. And by the way, we're going to New York. And by the way, we signed with an agent. And yep, we've got a book deal. And now we're traveling around the world. So he's been very supportive. And his response was, well, if anyone could do it, it's the two of you.
Oh, so, okay.
All right. He's been great. And that doesn't mean we don't have little conflicts here or there. But again, we both know what's going to set he knows when he's been mean or when he's crossed the line, and I ignore him, and then the next day he apologizes.
Is there one thing from that section of the book about getting your groove back that each of you could attribute to your flourishing after your marriages to Corey?
My favorite advice to give people is, this is your second chance at the life you want to lead. You, keyword you. And so for me, even though when I got divorced, here I had a almost 3-year-old, so that's a little different definition of create the life you want. Mm-hmm. But it was like, you know what? Like, I haven't done anything for myself since I've been married to this man. Like, it's about our family, it's been about him, it's been about my job, and not a whole lot about filling my soul and my tank. So, like, I used to love to just play tennis for fun, throughout college with friends. And I started joining tennis teams, and it was like my soul was so happy. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to start traveling more locally on the weekends I don't have my son, so I can do something constructive and fill my tank. And I started doing that. So, like, just think of the things that you always wanted to do, but you felt held back in your marriage, and, like, write them down and do a couple of those. And I think it just makes you so happy. You're just taking that time for yourself to kind of get to know yourself again and do things that'll make you grow, So that's my biggest piece of advice from that chapter that I love.
They always say you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but I'm looking at the cover of the book, and I'm judging it. And it's it's a good thing. Look, even the cover of the book is so cute that I would buy it, and I don't even like to read. Like, I'm excited to read this book. Like the cover of it, it has so much personality and so much sass, and it just resonates with me and where I want to go after my divorce that I want to pick up this book.
I don't really like to read either, but if the cover is cute, then I'll buy it. So when we were looking at the design of the cover, Valerie and I were both like, okay, this has to be like super awesome. It's got to grab their attention. And so thank you for that. I appreciate that.
No, seriously,
really
I love it.
Awesome. Ladies, thanks so much again for your time, all right?